What's up, YouTube? Feeling a little sickly, so obviously the perfect time to play Shadow. This is Esper, Shadow, technically Dimir, splashing white for a couple Teferi in the main, some prismatic endings in the sideboard. Expecting a lot of Yawgmoth in the leagues at the moment. Prismatic ending does a really good job against them. Teferi really good against Rhinos, living in, stuff like that. Also, a lot of blue-red Flame of Anor decks showing up, and Teferi's pretty decent at kind of forcing those decks to play a little more fair, giving you a little more chances to interact on the stack. Be able to counter, like, Flame of Anor, counter the Wizard, whatever the case is. So, we're just going to give it a shot, see what happens. The only real differences between, like, this list and most of the stock Dimir lists you see, besides the Teferis and the Prismatics, trying out a couple copies of Archmage's Charm. I'm not on 4 Preordain. I like the 4 Consider over the 4 Preordain, just keeping instant speed as much as I can. Shaved down to 3 Bowmaster from 4. Added an extra dress down to the sideboard, blah, 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 blah. Not important. What's important is we go ahead and get into the matches and start throwing some games together. I'm trying to do a better job of getting more like direct to YouTube content. So more full leagues. They just so happen to be like direct recordings instead of through stream. But it's a good way to get to control what could potentially cause a video to get like demonetized or something. So it's kind of a middle ground. Opening hand, pretty good. Removal spell, a couple counter spells. We got a threat, so keep it. See what we're up against. We're on the draw, so if we have to answer like a turn 1 Ragavan, it's going to be pretty painful. Inspiring Vantage, so could be burn. Go Flooded Strand, pass. Plan on getting a tapped Watery Grave if I can. Not burn. Not burn at all. Humans. Okay. So maybe like a Thalia here. I'd be pretty okay with a Thalia because that just plays like really well into Bowmaster. Harsh Mentor. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, it deals 2 damage to that player. So if I let this resolve and then fetch, I'm taking an unnecessary 2. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and get an island, let this resolve, and then dismember it. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm getting tapped Watery Grave. Yeah. Gonna get tapped Watery Grave, untap, get an island. I do need to kill this before it gets out of hand, but if I get the opportunity to like flash in Bowmaster and kill it instead of using my Dismember, I feel pretty good about that. It's unfortunate that they've got a Cavern of Souls while I'm sitting here with double counterspell in hand, but maybe we catch them going for like a double spell or something. All right, so they are going to attack with the Mentor, which means I'm definitely flashing in this Bowmaster. Ping the Mentor. Try to block with the token. I don't think there's any Flash Human Lords. Obviously, I've been wrong plenty of times before, but what do we got? Path to Exile. Sure. Well, now I'm really glad that I didn't get that basic island to dismember. We'll trade off with the Mentor here. The Path to Exile in the main makes me a little happier to have these counter spells. All right, creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So this Murktide's coming in tapped unless I get the Sovereign off the board. I got to decide if it's worth just like playing out a 4/4 Murktide, because I'm probably not going to get to counter anything with this Cavern sitting around. Got Thalia. Creatures and non-basic lands enter the battlefield tapped. So this is going to come in tapped regardless, but we can go ahead and get that out of the way. And I think I'm going to kill the Thalia instead of killing the 2/1 Sovereign. Opponent is down to 1 card in hand. And they're not attacking. So do they have a bead on me being Death Shadow? Or are they just afraid of another Bowmaster? Okay. Maybe get a card out of hand and get this Murktide down. Nice. So we'll play tapped Watery Grave. Go ahead and just play out the Murktide. Say go, and now we can hold up Otawara. We can hold up Counterspell. We are currently winning the race if nothing else happens. Dahlia's Lieutenant. Okay. So 3 puts me down to 11. Now we are not winning the race, but we do have Otawara to bounce the Imposing Sovereign. We also have like more Bowmasters would be good draws. More or any Fatal Push, Drown in the Lock. Anything like that look fairly decent. So opponent attacks in for 4 here. Aether Vial is... Alright, am I taking this? If I'm taking the 4, then I want to just counterspell the Aether Vial. Because getting the counter in the yard could lead to me growing a Murktide if I find a second one. If I take 4, go to 7, the next turn, like, Otawara, the Sovereign. I think that's okay. There we go. Especially if I get an opportunity, maybe they play like a 2-drop and I get to Otawara the Sovereign, or that's a good draw. I was going to say something like they play a 2-drop, I Otawara the Sovereign and counterspell it on the way back down. Shadows, say go. What they got. So we will take this. See if they have a follow-up. All right, so because they're letting me go to my turn, I'll go ahead and untap. So if their last card is like another Path to Exile, then I get to Otawara this out of the way, attack it with my Shadow, hold up Counterspell. Not going to attack him with my Murktide in case they had like some uncounterable way to stop the Shadow from killing them. Then I want to save this Murktide to block on the way back because they're going to have replay Thalia's Lieutenant through Cavern on their turn. And that would be lethal, which is not an amount of damage that I really want to take. Okay. So we've got Engineered Explosives, Prismatic Ending, Rest Down probably coming in. Board out some counter spells. Board out Stubborn Denial. Last cut is probably going to be like Teferi. Teferi's not bad. Like a reasonable tempo swing. But if they're running Thalia, like 2-mana Thalia, then Teferi can be pretty expensive, pretty awkward. So it's kind of between Teferi and Thoughtseize. Maybe Teferi on the draw and like on the play, bring Thoughtseize back in, something like that. But I really think Dress Down is going to do a good bit of the heavy lifting. A Harsh Mentor, Red-White Humans, maybe like an Imperial Recruiter, Modern Legal. Pretty sure it is. That could be a good one. I hadn't seen Harsh Mentor in a while. That, and there was a, I don't know if it was a human or not, but it was a like hasty red 3-drop or something out of Magic Origins. Scab something. Scab Clan Berserker or something like that. That and Harsh Mentor were supposed to be two of these like taxi effects that made some sort of an impact and just never did. All right, what do I think of this? Obviously really awkward if I don't hit the lands like right away. I'm not in love. Let's see. Like, I'm not too worried about hitting the second land with all these cantrips. What I'm more worried about is if I do hit the second land, am I just like way too behind at that point? Like if they go turn 1 Vial, I go turn 1 Preordain, find a second land. We'll roll with it. We got a game to play with. All right, that was kind of my fear, is that they would lead off on a threat instead of like a Vial. Let's get Watergrave in hand. We have our second land, and we've got a Bowmaster. Maybe opponent's nice and like plays second land, double Aether Vial. Nope. Kind of rude, honestly. Yeah. Like I said, this was kind of my fear with this hand, is even if I hit the second land, I'm just kind of super behind. now I've got to decide between like dress down if they play a human that I really care about, or like bowmaster to try to ping and trade with something. This is like a Thalia's lieutenant. And abolisher. Alright, well. Cast anything during their turn, so they are very, very anti-counter spells. Go ahead and jump here. Alright, well, Grand Abolisher kind of cuts into the usefulness of Tidebinder a little bit. Bottom the Bowmaster because I want the land, and if I use it, I'm going to be shuffling away the Bowmaster anyway. Gonna ping me. Kind of feel like I need to just dig for a shadow here. Doing a lot of wheel spinning this game. Okay. We really need that shadow. Murktide would be decent. Removal spell would be good. Multiple removal spells would be good. No removal spells is not good. Okay, let's try this on the play and find some of these prismatic endings or something. And Stern Scolding looks so good if they don't have Cavern of Souls. I could like bring in Spreading Seas to try to hit Cavern. No. I feel so confident that if I bring in like Spreading Seas, they're not going to see Cavern, but if I bring in counter spells, they will. We'll bring the Thoughtseize back in. Board out. Or like I have the Thoughtseize in on the draw. I'm kind of thinking stay with that. Teferi's better on the play. Neither of them really look like that exciting. So I don't think it's a whole bunch of percentage points one way or the other. 5 lands, Archmage's Charm. No threat, no removal spell. Ship that back. This is a lot better. Turn 1, we got Thoughtseize. Turn 2, push. Got a threat. Got Aether Vial, Path to Exile, Vortex. Let's take the Path. Why will you not let me click yield? So top deck, Cavern of Souls. Down this vial, yep. Kind of surprised that they have Roiling Vortex in here. I don't think I've shown them anything free. And having down a guaranteed damage source into the shadow seems kind of harsh. Kind of that point here of, hey, I really hope you play this Vortex. Nope. All right, let's get Shadow down. Got Drown held up for a potential path here. Let's see if they found a 1-drop to Violin. And thankfully, like, Fatal pushing something will get second card in their yard to be able to drown something else. Not playing out Lieutenants. Not playing out Vortex. Pretty good draw. If you're not going to start attacking, we will. What you got? They're not vialing in a Lieutenant. So we know 3 of their 5 now. Have to assume they top decked another 2-drop, and this isn't like. All right, Champion, sure. And I am guessing this is going to be like Cast Thalia's Lieutenant, ETB, Violin, other Lieutenant. I can't imagine that they're just gonna find out. All right, so we're gonna respond to this with Bowmaster. Get another Thalia's Lieutenant. All right, I'll let this enter, and I think I'm just gonna Fatal Push this one. Hold on to my Drowning Lock, because again, it's like an answer to Path to Exile if they end up going that route. I don't care so much about the Roiling Vortex, but Path would be a pain. Pretty good. Got Another Thalia's Lieutenant. Take that. Attacking for 7, offering up the trade if they want to trade off with like the Bowmaster. There you go. Keeping Vile on 2. So that's really making me think that they don't have things like Imperial Recruiter or any of the impactful 3-drops. Vortex is fine. Like if you did have some of the impactful, more expensive spells, then you would be taking Vile up to 3 more than likely. Alright. So I could Misty and just attack with the Shadow, kind of protect myself on the backside. I can Misty attack with everything because they're going to have to chump block the Shadow. The Drown in the Lock kind of protects me from like a haste threat on the way back. So if they have something to like Vile in here. Worst case scenario would be something like, okay, so now they do tick up Vile to 3. They must have drawn a 3-drop. Save the Drown for Path to Exile. Can't do anything else. Oh, opponent's over it. Nice. 1-0. Red White Humans. Not a deck I've seen at all. Back when Modern Horizons first came out, I was determined that there was going to be like a really good Jeskai Humans list. So I was like, oh, they get not only Thalia and Thalia's Lieutenant, Champion of the Parish, but they get Manish Rider, Unsettled Mariner had come out, and some of the hate pieces, like at the time, Auriok Champion, Phantasmal Image, Reflector Mage. It's like, that sounds really, really dope. And I think the week after MH1 dropped, it trophied like 2 or 3 times and then just never saw it again. Dang. Meddling Mage they got. It was like all the good humans. You just lost Freebooter, so you didn't get to like Freeboot and then Meddling Mage name something that you saw Freebooter. That's a good hand. But I was just like so convinced it was going to be good, and felt justified when it trophied once or twice and then just nothing. Sailed off into the sunset. Turn 1, play out a fetch, hold up soft stub if there's something unfair like Amulet or Tron. Not, we've got Consider, we've got Fatal Push for a threat. There's a kind of brief period of time where soft stub on turn 1 was just this like over the top god tier play. Because even in matchups that Stubborn Denial was terrible, you had Aether Vial as a target, but on top of that, you had Amulet of Vigor, you had Utopia Sprawl everywhere. Just so many targets for it. Preordain, you say. What if we go get a Hallowed Fountain right now? Get that out of the way. Cast Preordain. Misty Rainforest. Nowadays, all I think of when I see Misty Rainforest is something that is bordering unfair. So like Rhinos, Living End, Omnath Pile, something like that. So Living End. Yep. Like Misty Rainforest, I feel should be one of the most fair fetches. And it's just not. All right. Thoughtseize, phenomenal pickup. So now I get to Thoughtseize, play out the shadow, and hold up the stub. Living End in hand is good for me. I think I'm going to take the Violent Outburst just to kind of force them into the Living End on their turn into this stub. And if we get to stub this Living End and then maybe like find a fetch land to fetch shock push the Shardless Agent, then we're kind of like on cruise control at that point. Soft stub on this. Click off of all these cards. So we know about another breeding pool. Or no, we knew about that breeding pool. I accidentally click off of something. Revealed Thoughtseize. Or no, revealed Living End, Breeding Pool, Forest, Shardless Agent. They played the Forest. So they do have another breeding pool in hand. The dress down's not bad. Not great right here, but not bad. Not gonna fire off this this dress down just in case they top decked a Violent Outburst. There we go. All right, so let's fetch and shock. Fatal Push the Shardless Agent. Attack in. If they have like a Force Negation right there, that would be fantastic for me. Because then I still get to Fatal Push the Shardless Agent and I get a Force Negation out of hand. So if their draws were like Outburst, Force. Okay, well now we have a good time against Outburst, Force, blue card. So if that's the case, I think I'm just gonna hit them and pass and hold up my double counter spell. Because like with this, I beat Outburst, Force, blue card. But if I go for the dress down kill right there and they have in response Outburst and I counter and Force blue card, I can't pay for another counter. So it's just like an unnecessary risk. Like here's the Outburst. Counter. Outburst resolves. And yeah. Nice. So, didn't look like they had the Force blue card, but getting to get kind of justified by them having The violent outburst there is kind of nice. Don't really have much in terms of grave hate in this matchup, but we do just have 4 counters. I don't mind bringing in Dress Down, stops grief on some of those turns. They want to get like kind of cheeky and grief you before going for it. Also pumps up Shadow if you need to. Teferi's obviously fantastic in the matchup. Odawar is like the only real answer to it. Tidebinder's good. Charm in the main gives us a couple extra counter spells. Stern Scolding could also be an answer to grief. Maybe I want to go like 2 Dress Down, 1 Stern Scolding, especially being on the draw. So we did see that they have grief. So it's not like maybe they don't have it kind of thing. Do that. I do think Dress Down has like the higher upside, especially if they don't have the grief. This is going to need some help. I'm going to need to find like a Thoughtseize or a counter spell or something in these first couple of turns. But with the double Consider, I feel like I might be able to do that. Speak of the devil. But if we can get to turn 3 and like land a Teferi, then I feel decent. Yep. All right, so main phase cycling that Street Wraith kind of makes me think that they were looking for something. Perhaps looking for like a black card ditch to grief, but they would have just had the Street Wraith. Charlotte's Agent, double grief foundation breaker. All right. Well, if they go for a grief here, we feel pretty good about that. Obviously, unless they follow that grief up with a something impactful. Not a land. All right. Got a nice little race of are we going to find the land before they find the Cascade spell. Thankfully, we do beat the first Cascade spell pretty badly. Like, even if they grief us. I mean, I guess they could have top decked it. It's like fairly free to play around here. A Bowmaster in the bin. Land cyclers are pretty okay. So it's just, do I think that that last card they have is a Cascade spell? Land is great. But if that last card was the Cascade spell, like, I would assume that they would be going for the grief. But I'm also sitting here with like a billion cards in hand. We're going to be discarding like, what, Dress Down here. Let's Stern Scolding this. That was grief off grief, right? Yep. Fiscal Dispute. You got it. You're going to see if you go for a Cascade spell. It's pretty rough pickings. Ground and Lock, sure. They're just going to go for the jam here. They could have... They could have Endurance. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and like fire off a Drown here. Looking for Murktide, looking for Shadow. Got Foundation Breaker, Unknown. And I think if they do nothing, I'm just going to go for this EOT Archmage's Charm. Like, obviously, if their top deck was exactly Violent Outburst, it punishes me pretty hard. But... if it's not... So, threat achieved. And now we can start, like... Start Preordain, hold up counters. What you got? Two unknowns in hand. All I really want is lands. Like, I don't really care about much past those. I'll keep the counterspell on top just in case, but I'm probably not even drawing it, honestly. Go to Wara back my Shadow, sure. It's A-okay with me. Like, less I have to worry about. Going to send me a message. Opponent said that was a poor use of mystical dispute by me. They countered what was it? Countered my stern scolding. Pretty funny. Alright, well, we've gotten to the hard cast int stage of the game. That's usually a spot that favors me pretty heavily. So, you know, Foundation Breaker, Unknown. This is just hard cast another thing. I don't really need to counterspell this, but I'm really hoping that their last card is just like another Cascade spell. And I get to Tidebinder it and untap and have lethal, but like no reason for him to go for it if it is. Okay. Something, too much of a good thing, something. Just told opponent, like, I think the decision to go for the mystical dispute there was fine. Like, you can't do anything about my deck just giving me mono counter spells. Get rid of that, and then just like anything possibly coming off the top, we're counterspelling if we can. Even if it's a cycle, I'm probably just like Tidebindering. When it gave the GGs, we give the GGs back. And we're on to match number 3. Off to a nice little 2-0 start. Oh. 23 trophies on top of the trophy board. Nice. Staking up there. Dingo's up there. Selfie sex up there. Turtle, parrot. Good list up the top. I always do think it's funny that like so much of the top of the trophy board is usually like Amulet Titan, Living End, few scam up there. But Amulet Titan and Living End like run the trophy board like nobody's business. On the draw, Sitter, Murktide, Tashana's Tidebinder. I think I'm going to throw this back. If opponent just has like a 1-drop, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'd really rather have an opening hand with like a Thoughtseize or even a Bowmaster or something. All right, deck, I was kidding. Rather have a hand with a Thoughtseize. I got you, fam. All right. That's pretty good. Pretty good 5. Just keep the Dismember and the Counterspell. Gives us like the widest range of coverage. Mono Black Scam. Okay. If we can find like a Shadow off the top or Fatal Push. Preordained's not bad. It's also not bad, but we're going to need a few extra cards. Mono Black Scam with Saga. Well, if their opener was Scam Grief, Land, Saga, Land, then I don't believe we were winning this one. If they don't have a third land, maybe we have a chance. They do, in fact, have a third land. All right, we will scoop it up to that. Yikes. Urza's Saga. So Stern Scolding looks good. Dress Down and Spreading Seas look decent. Maybe I want some number of Engineered Explosives. Trim a couple Thought Seizes. So Mono Black Scam. Mono Black Scam with Urza's Saga. We just got rid of all of the Thought Seizes. Don't bring in the EE. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to bring in the third Dress Down. Well, no, they're a Saga deck. I should. Well, let me change it now. Okay. Okay with keeping a halfway functional 7. You got it. What you want? It's down. That could mean that they have a Saga in hand. Oh. Back to have the Saga. Okay. If I go for Teferi and they flash in a Bowmaster, could be awkward. So maybe I want to like double fetch shock, play Hallowed Fountain, go down to 12, play out double shadow, hold up dismember. Maybe they go for like Bowmaster, ping one of my shadows, and I dismember. That wouldn't be terrible. It's probably better than going for the Teferi if they have a Bowmaster. Like, perfect world would be I go for Teferi, they don't have a Bowmaster, and I just minus on Saga. And then if they want to, like, untap and land Bowmaster, that's fine. But this is, like, decent into Bowmaster. This is decent into untap and make a token. They do know about the dismember. All right, so sack you. Okay. Well, if they've got take my dismember plus Bowman, yep. That kind of wrecks my day. Okay. Well. Just tick you up, say go. Yeah, kind of had everything there that we needed them not to have. The rack. Mono black 8 rack. Okay. Well, we sideboarded very poorly if that's the case. Like, Stubborn Denial would have been great. Flusterstorm would have been great. Keeping in the extra drown, Engineered Explosives, Prismatic Ending, like a whole bunch of stuff that was really, really good if we recognize this as being the rack. But that was not on my radar at all. Definitely thought this was just a traditional, like, mono black scam deck. Maybe Saga should have tipped that off a little bit more. Let's see. We could charm, steal something. Maybe I want to go like Teferi, bounce, charm, steal the rack. Yeah, this is like always going to ping me, right? That doesn't make much sense. Let's bounce the Bowman. Pass. Maybe they go to strap up the Shadow Spear on something. This. Hard cast to grief. Okay. Then if they take something. All right, so they got recast Grief again. Pretty dead here, but maybe I can find some sequence of like, top deck. Dead to the rack. Ugh. Good old case of mistaken identity. So yeah, after that game 1 scammed Grief, I never would have had the rack on my mind. But perhaps, like I said, Urza Saga might should have ticked me off. And I know there's going to be people watching the video that think, oh yeah, like Urza Saga, obviously it's the rack. But when you play a whole lot and you haven't seen the rack in a year, looking at you, Saffron Olive, that was the last time I ran into the rack. Seeing Scam Grief leads me to think the decks that I have seen in the last few months, which is Scam, obviously, and then Mono Black. And Mono Black with the Scam package, we've seen a good bit. And this would just make me think like Mono Black Scam package, throwing in Urza Saga. Probably not the craziest thing in the world. Opponent reveals Giganta. Could be Prowess, could be Shadow, could be Tron. I think our hand's like pretty decent against any fair deck. Not so great against Prowess. Looks like it is Prowess. Channeler, sure. Let's just go Flooded Strand, go. I would really like to Bowmaster this Channeler. And dismember something else, like save dismember to pay more life in, or to pay less life into it later. So I'm looking to hopefully consider here. But obviously that's going to depend on like what they do turn 2. Like, do they have a mutagenic growth? If they go too hard in on this Chandler, like if they find Delirium here, I'm definitely killing off the Chandler. They scried to the top. So now I'm pretty inclined to like just get a basic and consider. Draw. All right. So now I think I'm just going to pass the turn, plan on Fatal Push plus Consider. If they start off with an expressive iteration, oh, that's tricky. We'll see what they've been. It's like, obviously, I really want to Bowmaster ping this Channeler But if they just have a mutagenic growth, then I'm taking a lot of unnecessary damage, especially if that mutagenic growth gets them to delirium. Like if they play mutagenic growth, flip over a creature, then resolve expressive iteration, then I'm taking a very, very sizable chunk that I really don't need to be taking. Do find a Soul Scar Mage. I think I'm going to dismember into turn. Mana efficient. Okay. Counterspell, really good pickup. I think I'm going to let this resolve. I kind of want to save this counterspell for an Underworld Breach. If I start like firing off counterspells on everything that they do that's halfway reasonable, then I run the risk of them just like finding a breach, playing it, comboing off on me right there. Then I probably should have just Tidebinder the fetch land. I'll see what we draw off consider. Okay. If they just want to deal one, I'll take one. Okay. There's the Underworld Breach. I would prefer they not resolve. Just pass. Gotta counterspell this breach. Like, if they use Islet again, then it's kind of leading to Murktide just being a one-shot kill. Ult me. Sure. Really care for that one. Obviously, if they have like another bolt and then lava dart, I'm dead to that. I think I'm going to make them have it. Okay, well, I have the option to go down to one. Probably not the best idea with the lava dart staring me in the yard. Don't have another island, so... Okay. That doesn't kill me. Does make it so that I can't fetch, but I don't think I was fetching anyway. Yep. I beat pretty much any creature. Yep. Oh. Now I'm throwing a blocker in the way of that. If I don't, I'm dead. I'm gonna do this and then double dart and just like trade off with the dragon. Pretty okay with that. We're gonna have to use both darts to kill off the dragon. That means I do think I'm gonna fetch down to 2. Like, obviously, I wish I had a way that I could get another basic here. Kill off the Swift Spear. Just double check and make sure they have no more darts before I do anything. Two. And say go. Actually, we'll play out the Tarn. If they play like a 1-drop threat, like a Swift Spear, I might crack it. Bowmaster down. Not cracking the... it's a good draw. Not cracking the Scalding Tarn if I can avoid it. Because I don't want to be dead to both halves of a Lava Dart. Keep my Bowmaster. You got it. And that should wrap it up. Because now we just have Shadow counter anything off the top. If they've got a Lava Dart off the top, we can counter half of it. Nice. All right. Game 2. We've got Pending. We've got EE. Stern Scolding. Stubborn Denial. Dress Down's not bad. Fairy's definitely coming out. Thought Seize is coming out. Tidebinder's not very good. Bowmaster, I think, is pretty meh. I think I like Dress Down more than Bowmaster. Dress Down being able to shut off like haste off of Swift Spear, Sprite Dragon potentially. Bluster Storm's also a consideration. Bring in 1 Dress Down. But yeah, like Dress Down taking off Prowess. You can do like Dress Down on your own instep. And that shuts off like Prowess triggers on your opponent's turn. So if they have a decent sized board, then you can just like Dress Down on your instep, stop them from getting a ridiculous attack in for a turn if that's all you need to like reset a little bit. You can also shrink a Channeler down to a 1/1. just make sure that, like, stripping abilities does not strip effects that give like +X+X. So if your opponent mutagenic growths a creature and then you dress down afterwards, it still gets the +2/+2. Like, affecting abilities is not affecting changes to power and toughness. It's the same reason that if your opponent's got, like, say, a Sword of Fire and Ice and you dress down, it'll remove the protection from blue and red. It'll remove the deal damage trigger. It will not remove the +2/+2. Pretty interactive hand, so I'm kind of here for it. Usually the goal against like Prowess is just keep the board clear as much as humanly possible. Can't stop them from ever having attacks, but you can at least like knock out some of these cheap dudes. Them leading on Swift Spear makes me think that either A, they don't have another creature spell, which would be ideal, or B, their creature spells are just more Swift Spears. Usually you want to like lead on the creature that doesn't have haste so that you can follow it up with a haste creature plus another spell or something and start like pseudo storming. Fetch on my turn to play around, light up the stage. And then I'm probably going to fire off a removal spell on the Swift Spear. We'll let them go to blocks first just to see if they want to like fire off some stuff into it. So if they have a Spell Pierce, kind of unfortunate. Like they do, yep. Okay. Land. We'll just go ahead. Knock you out. Yep. All right. Pretty important turn cycle here. I need them to not put something else on the board. They're really good at exiling these Soulscar mages. I was going to say I need them to not put anything else on the board, and I need to find another land. Technically. And we're just going to kill this off. If this ends up getting me killed, so be it. Just pretty good chance if they just have an Underworld Breach. Maybe like Breach back Swift Spear plus a Bauble and puts me in really bad shape. Let's get down Dragon. It is a 7/7, so it's currently dodging Unholy Heat. I'm definitely throwing it in front of a Questing Druid if they attack. The fact that they didn't go for Seek the Beast there would kind of lead me to believe that their hand isn't that strong and they're needing to like force through an attack. Can't really afford to like take a turn off. Which obviously is way more favorable for me. Now, do you have a follow-up to this? Alright, so we're just dead. Ugh. Well, if I dismembered this, I would have been dead to that lava dart anyway. Need to find lands. Don't think I'm really changing anything up. There's like this window in this matchup. I'd say it's like turn 3 and 4-ish, where if you're able to leverage a mana advantage against them, it 100% shifts like the momentum around without taking too much damage. Like if you're able to get a slight turnaround to be able to like counterspell a threat on an empty board, or like remove a threat into turn on their turn and untap with all of your mana available on an empty board, then that's when the entire like tide of this matchup shifts. But if it turns into they play a 1-drop, you play a 1-mana removal spell, and then turn 2, they play like a 1-drop and a bauble, and you play a 2-mana removal spell, and they have like a spell pierce, then all of a sudden they're leveraging the mana advantage and able to keep a threat out on the board, dealing that extra chip damage. And that's when you fall behind. So like that game, if we had found the 3rd land, even the 2nd land on turn 2, to be able to like fight over the Swift Spear, they spell pierce, and then we probably just follow up with a hard cast Dismember, go to our turn 3 with our mana open, clear board. Now we have Stern Scolding up. We've got Counter Spell in hand. We've got Dress Down. We could play the Murktide. Like that's when the options really open up, and you're able to turn it around. But it's like a really, really narrow window. Like I said, turn 3, turn 4, somewhere around there. Love to play first. Stern Scolding, Fatal Push. All right, really good opening hand. We've got our mana. We've got interaction. We could Archmage's Charm to potentially yoink something. Yep. So we'll go to my turn. Just going to fetch up a tapped shock land here. Let's go Island, Preordain. You kind of like both of these. Take both. Go ahead and kill off the Channeler. Say go. And now if my opponent like puts a threat on board, I could potentially Archmage's Charm, steal it. If they go for like a big attack and try to hit me for a bunch, then I could look at untapping with Shadow. Now what do I want to do? I kind of want to just take the Channeler. I could play out a 5/5 5/5 Murktide. think I'm just gonna take. I'll take the Channeler or the Soul Scar. Probably the Channeler. There you go. Like, I'm pretty okay with not blocking if they decide to attack in, because if they do a bunch of damage and don't actually kill me, then I'm in good shape. And like this, if they spend spells dealing with the Channeler, that's good for me. Kind of looks like light up the stage. Oh, light up the stage. All right. Here's a EE for 1. Want to spell pierce this? Just pass it over. Like I said, I really want to leverage the mana advantage and get back to my turn with an empty board. So I would like to crack this EE into turn, if possible. But if my opponent's going to like fire off a bunch of spells at my face, then I might be inclined to fire it off early. Here we go. The Soul Scar off the board. Go back to my turn. Just trying to find like one more land. Flusterstorm's piece. They do not currently have Delirium. So I think I'm just going to play out a 6/6 Murktide, hold up Flusterstorm. They have like Mystical Dispute here. They are missing Sorcery. So if they start off with like an expressive iteration on their turn, I'm probably Flusterstorming. Soul Scar is fine. If they go for like a bolt on the Murktide, I might actually just let it resolve. Let's see. Okay. Stubborn Denial, I think, is going to be pretty close to locking this up. Through the Murktide, say go. I could like upkeep, go for the Drown. But I want to see if they have something like Sprite Dragon. If they Sprite Dragon, I can respond to that with like Dress Down or Drown or something. Seek the Beast. Let's Flusterstorm that. That way we can save Stub for a potential Underworld Breach. This does not give them Delirium. What you got? What do we got? All right. Not going to do anything here. Just go to 8. See what they do. We'll go for the end of turn drown. They spell pierce this. I'm A-okay with that. Don't want to pay for spell pierce. Turn Scolding's D's. Kraken. Still don't have Delirium. So just play Shadow, hold up Stubborn Denial, Stern Scolding. What you got? Land's okay. Really want this to be like a Sprite Dragon. Something that I can Stern Scolding. Stubborn Denial this. So if their last card is like another Spell Pierce, then all they're really getting to do is like Bolt plus Dart. That's not scary. Doesn't even kill my Shadow. Kill the Murktide. Seems good. They don't really have a good attack. All right. So they're forced into a chump block here. Take that. They could like flashback Dart and put a -1/-1 counter on the Shadow. Didn't really do too much. Underworld Breach here would let them get back a couple threats if they want it. Otherwise, it's just like Bolt, Dart, and that's only 7. So like double Bolt doesn't kill me. Double Dart doesn't kill me. Breach doesn't kill me. Holy Heat on a Shadow. You think they found double Unholy Heat? Found to light up the stage. Didn't do it. Then probably just like dress downing into turn. They're dead regardless, but I kind of just want the redraw now in case the top card's like a counter spell or something of the effect. All right. Back in. And we move to 3 and 1. Pretty fun match. Pretty fun match. The 3-1 going for the 4-1. See what happens. I've been seeing more and more comments, like not only on my stuff, but other people's stuff about liking full-length videos. They're not so bad if you just like record them live as you're playing them here. But I know for some people, the time is a really big investment. Like we're moving in on a little over an hour and a half here. And this league's probably not going to be done until close to 2 hours, which is pretty substantial compared to like the normal voiceover leagues that are 30, 35 minutes. And unfortunately, a lot of the live league time is just downtime like this. So be sure to let me know in the comments what you prefer, because I think doing the voiceover leagues is like pretty easy and easier to digest when you're talking about like a 30-minute league, just kind of stopping to talk about important points, versus a 2-hour league with the like wait time for the next match. I mean, if this was like a full-time thing, then maybe I would look more into video editing to take out dead time, which I did look into a little bit towards the earlier part of the year. Or like just clipping out the match itself, but still there's a lot of dead time waiting for rounds. Okay, Wooded Foothills, no companion. I think we're just going to fetch Shock Thoughtseize. Could be like rhinos. It could be a number of things. Was it burn? Did we get jebaited? It is burn. Okay. Not burn. It's creativity, right? Well, they got basic planes. I don't know what this is. Like silence makes me think creativity. I really don't have a clue. Well, let's play out a shadow. There you go. We figure out more about what's going on. Stable. Cycle Triome, sure. So if that's the case, I think I'm going to go for end of turn, dismember my own shadow. Untap, hit for 7. Maybe I hit a fetch land and get to up the clock a bit. Island's not bad. We're being for reals. Maybe I get something to Tidebinder. I don't know what, with like basic planes not being worried about what's it called? Not worried about getting a Dwarven Mine for creativity. Opponent, I'm presenting lethal. What do you have to say about it? You say go to game 2. Is there like a Mardu creativity deck? Because that's my only guess, is main deck silence makes me think this has to be some sort of creativity list. I cannot think of anything else that runs silence or is interested in silence. So I'm going to go into game 2 with the expectation that that's what this is. So if that's the case, we'll get rid of some of this spot removal. Bring in EE. Spreading Seas is good, especially for hitting triomes. Stub and Fluster are good into creativity itself. Press down's pretty bad. Teferi's decent. It's a little slow on the draw, so I think I'll board one out on the draw. Maybe look at boarding it back in on the play. Definitely the joy of playing Death Shadow, though, is you have a lot of games. Like, look at that. I guess not so much the game against 8-Rack, but you have a lot of games where the game's just over. You have no idea what's going on. Your opponent just doesn't have time to assemble their thing, whatever their thing may be. And you just move on to the next one. Keep it on the draw. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Thoughtseize plus Consider. Okay, so it's some sort of combo deck. Usually Strike It Rich is something you see out of like Charbelcher a lot. Maybe they have a Veil. So it is creativity. Okay. At least I don't feel so crazy now. All right, let's just play Hallowed Fountain and say go. I could Thoughtseize here, but if they have a land, a third land that comes into untapped, they could, or they can't creativity here. Yeah, this Plains is kind of throwing me for a loop. Assume there's got to be like a reason for it, but just don't know what that reason is. Brown is, both of these are good. Really want both of these. So I think I'm going to pass with Flusterstorm. Okay. They've got Archon, Dwarven Mine. Let's go to my turn, get this fetch land, get Shadow down. And I want to save this Thoughtseize for after they fable away here. But I guess if they find a land, they're just hard casting Archon. Maybe that was a bad decision. They ditch the Archon. Never mind. What do I know? I don't know why they would ditch the Archon there. Like, I just die if you hard cast that thing. Is this silence for the sake of silence, or is this silence for a reason? Because this is just like silence to keep me from casting another spell, then I'm okay with the silence resolving. If this is silence and they're going to follow it up with like a lightning bolt on my shadow, I guess I couldn't stop that anyway. They're trying to creativity at instant speed. That would have been pretty funny. Okay. So I can't cast any more spells this turn, so let's just go to combat. I can fetch and shock. Probably don't want to do that because they just have potential Dwarven Mine. Over Fable. They do nothing. I'm going to Drown in the Loch the Reflection. Try to Drown in the Loch the Reflection. Have an Archon. Like trying to decide on whether or not to hard cast it. So I will have to keep in mind, with like Strike It Rich, they're a lot more likely to be able to hard cast the Archons. I kind of underestimated that. You have the Archon. That seemed like a lot of thinking for a play that just like doesn't get any better than that. Know what I mean? Like, what are you doing that's better than hard casting an Archon right there? Counterspell. Okay. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Fairies a little bit better on the play. Spreading Seas doesn't look as interesting now. Maybe I want some number of dress downs back in now that I think hard casting an Archon is actually something to be concerned about. And roll it back. Just trust that I'm on the play. I can be proactive. Can't be very proactive with this hand. Second Merc is basically a mull to 6 on its own. And then is this a good 6? Not really. Turn 1, do nothing. Turn 2, drown completely depends on what they do. Death Shadow's not online. Another very reactive hand. Kind of the same thing with this double tide binder. So I think I'm going to go to 5. All right. We find second, maybe third land off the top. This hand gets really good really quick. Take a pending in case we do top deck that second fetch land. Definitely need to make sure that we counter this Fable. Like, their hand's not great. All right. Gonna hold up Stub here in case they found the land for the Fable. If they don't find the land, we consider. If they do find the land, counter the Fable. Land. Okay. Okay. So we can get down. Could get down Shadow. Or we could just get Murktide down. Probably the better play. That way we can have Flusterstorm and Stub up. We're going to resolve Fable. Yep. One more land. One more land. Not a land. Got Silence. We have to stub the Silence and then try to, like, Flusterstorm the creativity. I mean, that's how this goes. Silence. Stub on the silence. I do really miss Street Wraith in this deck. That's kind of what became the Teferi Archmage's Charm slots. And Street Wraith, I think, is so good for making the deck more proactive. Gonna go for the creativity. We go for the Flusterstorm. And play that out. Back with our Murktide. Play Shadow. Hold up Counterspell. Hope it's enough. Anything answers the Shadow, we ignore it. So like Prismatic Ending on the Shadow, something like that. Let them have it. If it doesn't say creativity, probably not countering it. They have another silence and another... Yeah, so ignore that. Especially if this is trying to bait Counterspell. Back in. So this is probably just like, all right. I was going to say, they're just attacking with a Goblin Shaman, then it's like just an attack to make more treasures. But I think you just attack all out here, because even if I have a Shadow, you might be able to attack around it. All right. Well, if you got a Spell Pierce or a Veil of Summer, nothing I can do about it. I do not. Steal it. Stealing it for the 4-1. Love to see it. Love to see it. All right, back to the list. What did we think? Teferi, I don't think we cast a single time that entire league. Prismatic Ending would have been really good in our loss if we had thought that it was 8-rack, or if I had thought that it was 8-rack. But I ended up not boarding in those Prismatic Endings because I just didn't have 8-rack on the mind. So it is cool to see that they would have been very relevant in the matchup that we kind of struggled with. The Tidebinders, so like realistically, and I always try to look at these leagues objectively as much as I can. Tidebinder didn't do anything. Charm didn't do anything. Teferi didn't do anything. Bowmaster was like a 2-mana 1/1 pinger most of the time. But like these 6 cards really did not do anything that entire league. So when I look at this, I wonder how much different would the deck look if these were just like 4 Street Wraith and maybe like the 4th Drown, 3rd Preordain or something, and just more aggressively and consistently get to the rest of this stuff. Same with the sideboard, like Pending was good into Prowess, but we didn't see it. And then it was good into 8-rack, but we didn't bring it in. Spreading Seeds we didn't see, but that card's carried so much weight for me before. Dress Down, really good into Hardened Scales. Stern Scolding was good. Flusterstorm was great. EE we didn't see, Curse Totem we didn't see, Yawgmoth. But these 6 spots, whether or not it's worth it to splash white just for prismatic ending, kind of TBD. We did play some Rakdos before that was just splashing for prismatic ending, and I liked it. But at least as far as the main deck goes, these 6 3-drops did not perform as hoped. So Tidebinder's really shined before, so I don't want to hold this league against it. But Teferi and Archmage's Charm looked a little weak, so we'll kind of be messing around with those spots going forward. But as always, if you saw something different, if you had some other thoughts, some controversial or differing opinions, feel free to leave them down below. I'll leave the link to the deck list, the Twitter in case you want to know when a live stream's happening, the Twitch in case you want to know where the live stream is happening, the Cntrlfreak Discord if you want to come talk Shadow, non-Shadow, everything else, and the deck list. So as always, hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe. Enjoy some good food and company. I will catch y'all back live later. Adios for now.